Welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about the times in the book of Daniel. So we have three major time periods in Daniel: 1,150 days, 1,290 days, and 1,335 days. What exactly do these times mean? Well, there are two major theories that people put forth. In this video, we're just going to be exploring theory number one, which holds these are three different predictions of the interval between the desecration of the temple committed by Antiochus IV and the purification of the temple. So here's what the theory proposes. The author of Daniel witnesses the desecration of the temple by Antiochus. The author then predicts that it will take 1,150 days until the temple is purified. But then 1,150 days comes and it goes, and the temple was not purified. The prediction failed. Therefore, a later redactor comes and provides an updated prediction. They add in the number 1,290 days until the purification. Thus, they're adding on 140 days onto the old number. But this prediction also fails. So then, yet again, another redactor comes along and adds in another time period. This time, 1,335 days. This time, they're adding on 45 days onto the old prediction. But then, yet again, this fails. Thus, Theory 1 contends that these are three different predictions of the interval between the desecration of the temple by Antiochus IV and the purification of the temple. Hartman, in his commentary, summarizes Theory 1 very well. He writes, "The theory is that when those 1,150 days came and went without the temple being cleansed, some zealous and holy Jew changed the number to 1,290 days. Then, when nothing happened on the 1,290th day, another equally concerned Jew upped the number to 1,335 days." End quote. Now, this idea of extending predictions is very common throughout history, so I want to take a moment and show you that extending predictions is common. The first example I'm going to show you is that of William Miller. He was a preacher who lived in the 1800s and made a prediction about when Christ would return. He first said that Christ would return on March 21st, 1843. But when this failed, he added 12 months onto this and said he would return on March 21st, 1844. Then this failed. So what did he do? He added on another 7 months and finally said that Christ would return on October 21st, 1844. When the final prediction failed, this is known as the Great Disappointment, and you can have some fun researching that for yourselves. The other example I want to show you is that of Harold Camping. He too wanted to predict when Christ would return, and he first said that he would return on May 21st, 2011. But when this failed, guess what he did? He added on 5 more months onto that and said he would return on October 21st, 2011. And again, this also failed. So the idea of extending predictions when they fail is common throughout history, so we shouldn't be surprised that we see it here in Daniel. Alright, let's now spend some time breaking down each of these predictions. We'll begin with the 1,150 day prediction. We read this in chapter 8, quote, "Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to the one that spoke, 'For how long is this vision concerning the regular burnt offering, the transgression that makes desolate, and the giving over of the sanctuary and host to be trampled?' And he said to him, 'For 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary shall be restored to its rightful state.'" End quote. Now, as you've probably noticed, the text itself doesn't say 1,150 days. Rather, it says 2,300 evenings and mornings. But these time periods are actually equivalent. Since every day consists of 1 evening and 1 morning, therefore, if you halve 2,300 evenings and mornings, you get how many days? And that means there's going to be 1,150 days. Some commentators say that the reason why Daniel uses the language of evenings and mornings is because in the temple, the priests would offer a sacrifice in the evening and in the morning. Thus, there would be 2,300 sacrifices that were unable to be completed while Antiochus had control of the temple. This point is made by Goldingay, who writes the following in his commentary. "The 2,300 evenings and mornings before this takes place is usually taken to denote the 2,300 occasions when an evening or morning whole offering was not sacrificed. That is 1,150 days." End quote. Okay, let's now move on to our next two time periods. That is the 1,290 days and 1,335 days. These are found quite literally at the very end of the book of Daniel. In chapter 12, verse 11, we read the following. From the time that the regular burnt offering is taken away and the abomination that is desolate is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Then in verse 12 we read, happy are those who persevere and attain the 1,335 days. And then finally in verse 13 we read, but you, go your way and rest. You shall rise for your reward at the end of days. End quote. Okay, let's just focus on verses 11 and 12. First of all, can we appreciate how odd it is that we have two different numbers just sitting next to each other? And especially in verse 12, it seems to be encouraging the reader to keep waiting for a longer period. And this supports Theory 1, which contends that verses 11 and 12 are later additions to the text. Remember that Theory 1 contends that these dates were added because the purification of the temple had not yet occurred, so they keep pushing out those dates to longer and longer time periods. Writing on verses 11 and 12, we have the famous scholar James Montgomery, who writes the following. The two verses are successive glosses intended to prolong the term of 1,150 days announced in 814. That term was not fulfilled, and these glosses, which must be very early, successively extended the time to 1,290 and 1,335 days. End quote. I really like to visualize what scholars are saying, so let's just for a moment pretend that this document before us is the end of Daniel 12. What this theory is contending is that after the 1,150 days came and went, some later redactor came and added on verse 11, and then, once this failed, someone came and added on verse 12. Thus, verse 11 was added after the 1,150-day prediction failed, and then verse 12 was added after the 1,290-day prediction failed. Hopefully that made sense. I know this is a bit of a confusing topic. And you're probably asking yourself a pretty obvious question at this point, and that is, why wouldn't the author remove the incorrect numbers? So if a redactor really did come and add on these numbers, why wouldn't he remove the incorrect numbers? Why would he just add on top of it? Now, we actually don't have an answer to this question. It might be that it was in circulation, so you can't simply just take out a number once something has been published. That might be one reason for it, but fundamentally we just can't know. But writing on this, Collins writes the following, quote, remarkably, the contradictory numbers were allowed to remain side by side. The exact date was not ultimately so important, or perhaps it was regarded as yet another of the mysteries that was only revealed in symbolic code. Okay, so that is now Theory 1 all nicely summarized for us. And that's where we're going to conclude this video. If you've enjoyed it, can I please encourage you to hit that like button, leave me a comment, and subscribe. By doing all of these things, you really do help the channel to grow. Now, for all my patrons, this video is actually going to continue. For my patrons only, we're going to continue to talk about Theory 1, and we're going to be answering the question, why is Theory 1 wrong? Now, the reason why Theory 1 is wrong is because the 1,150-day prediction is actually correct. So for my patrons only, we're going to be breaking this down. So make sure you become a patron to get access to the rest of this video and so much more content. Thank you for watching until the end, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.